No, I gotta be honest, I wasn't expecting to be here with Gormizer so soon, buddy. You watched that set from a distance in our green room, and how do you feel?
It was a lot faster than I thought it was going to be. I was genuinely thinking, okay, game one, it's all, tail end, Drogoz gets a triple kill. Makes sense. Like, I'd lose that game every single day if you have random noob on Drogoz. Next game you go in, you ban it, and then it's just as fast. And you're like, okay, well, never mind.
Never mind. It seems like it had nothing to do with Drogoz. At the end of the day, it seemed like it was more of an Envy Renegades thing. You stop, offloading your problems onto other things. It's called deflection. Learn about it. Okay, not deflect or shield. Deflection. It's a thing in the real world. Fortunately, not in Paladins. Some people don't understand it.
It's kind of like
speaking in cards.
Counter with Zen, which is a deflection of bullets.
That's right. That's right. There's a lot of layers. A lot of layers of
like
deflection.
Onions.
Yeah. Like onions. I love it.
Or ogres.
Or ogres.
I feel like Vox needs to be here for that. I don't know why. He
for a
always
Shrek reference? I get
goes
Shrek. I get it.
to Shrek. But he always goes to Shrek.
Look at this. This is where we need to stand so you can see my freckles, just so everyone knows. Come on, Gore. Come on with me. Up here. Look at that. Look at these. Look at
I
that.
don't have the freckles.
Look at this. You know who we are now, and I actually kind of like
Well,
this.
now I can see that I need to comb my beard. is all I'm getting out of this shot.
Your beard looks manly and impressive. I'm just gonna leave it with those two adjectives.
Manly and impressive. I'm gonna put that on my resume.
I can't grow a beard like that.
I hardly can. It's amazing.
Now you're doing a good job. Doing better than me. All right, it's Splyce and SK. That's my litmus test. If you're doing better than me, you're impressive.
You're
you're impressive to me. Splyce and SK. Obviously a big matchup. Both of these teams are winning. You were telling me a funny thing before we actually went live that you said you feel like this is going to be a 5-game set.
And I feel like in those 5 games, there's gonna be one that's like just trudging through the mud, right? It's going to be a 4-3 that is going to be slower. It might even be an Ice Mines game,
right?
But it's all kind of like this gut feeling. It also could just be SK given a huge debut.
Do you mind if I stop you there and ask why you feel it's going to be a 5-game set?
I feel like what we've seen out of SK is that they are very strong at the start.
Okay.
And that it will dissipate.
Gotcha.
Splyce learns, and it's not necessarily like they learn better. It's just they recognize what's causing them trouble, and they learn how to deal with that to the point where with SK, I think at the very beginning, this is going to be a strong showing. This one might even be a 4-0. And then we'll start seeing Splyce catch up, and by game number 3, it starts to rotate
It'll
around.
tilt. It's the little bit of the seesaw,
and then
the
you get to
teeter-totter.
game 5, and you're just like, I don't know who's going to win.
Interesting. You know what? If it happens, I'll be very impressed. Yet again, we'll keep that adjective.
Be impressed and maybe a little sad.
I'll be impressed and scared because that means you might be able to tell the future.
For
and at
this
that point,
win to be impactful for either of these teams, it has to be a 3-0. If you really want to be able to say we actually have a good chance at beating any of the other PPL teams, this one needs to be a 3-0, even if it's 4-3.
No, I like that take, and I'm gonna just give it my own take, and I think that would be really good. But I think either of these teams are going to be happy snaking out a win. If you get your W in this set, you're like, man, we got time to work on this. Whew, that was not pretty, but we at least got the W. And if you don't, that's where I don't think they're in a position to say we need to. Like, I don't think they're in that spot where they can even demand a 3-0. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're like, man, if we need a win. Both of these teams are in that position.
I'm looking at it kind of as like the confidence booster, right? When you're looking at a lot of these teams, like, I mean, even just a matchup, Rakata and Invocal Sniper v Sniper, it's something similar we got to see on the first map as well. If you come out of this with the most kills, if you come out of it with a 3-0, after the game, after the set, you're feeling a lot better going into your next sets. You're like, okay.
I agree.
We can at least take that one, which means we're probably a little bit closer to like Renegades than we thought. Maybe even closer to G2 right now than we thought.
All of that, all speculation, but we've set the table for what should be an exciting set between two teams that need a win desperately. Both of them fighting for the rest of their season. Dethroner picked up, had an impressive start last week despite it not turning into any wins for SK. It still looked good on him, so will he continue his performance? Steps onto the point, steps off in vain. Oh, almost gets taken down. His life was almost in vain, but it turns out being Payan who's the one in pain. It's a good hook and an even better finish by G-Bunny and the rest of the squad to take down the Drogos, get themselves on the point.
And I think that Drogo is going to make a big difference. There's a lot to deal with him on the side of Splyce, so if Payan can start having a standout game, that will make a big play. Of course, Strix, I think, is going to have a role in that, trying to keep Kinessa locked down. So there's a lot of question marks around SK and if they can perform. But if there's anyone I trust on a sniper, it is going to be Invocal.
This is where I think Biney should have just waited. I mean, now he's not working with any health. If he would have just
shield.
waited here, he would have had full health, wouldn't have needed to pop the shield. He's flirting with death. At this point, Ricotta is protected by Shadow and its aspect. I like the way that they are working it on Splyce. No diggity, no doubt. Dethroner here, tough battle. So far, Splyce definitely have the edge.
Trying to fight it at this point. He's sitting at around 2,000 health. G-Bunny and Vayne are still here, still alive. There comes the ult coming down from Kinessa looking for the Headhunter, but that shield is going to be enough to at least push it away. And now G-Bunny, Vayne both getting low. They don't have a healer, and that's going to be the first front line down.
Wow, what a beautiful walk across the tightrope. Oh my goodness, that was impressive from SK, Dethroner, and especially Wi-Fi, who had the healing when he needed it most. I thought Ricotta and the rest of Splyce had him dead to rights there. He was so low, but right when that Headhunter hit, the shield popped as well, and Wi-Fi was there when you needed him. That's great synergy, and those two are already impressive for me on the day.
And just showcasing, I want to say, like, knowing your area very well. Dethroner is dipping right behind the ramp, stepping forward just enough to be able to hit the point, and that's all he needed to do. And it's just staggering. That 93 is not going to turn to 96 as fast. It's not going to turn to 99 as fast, and then we get some overtime. And as long as you're getting healing, as long as you have that shield, it buys you that time, and that's what's most important, at least in terms of capturing. Now, you need a lot more. This is when you need to start seeing Payan step up. You can't have your front line be the one. Maybe if you're Envy, like Rubu comes through, gets a triple kill, and that creates a push for you. I need to see this Drogoz hit insanely hard to start this push up.
What I liked about the items, minute and 35 seconds left, on the side of SK, put the Drogoz, the big hitter, with Wrecker 2, he's going to delete shields whenever they show up. Ricotta, though, with Wrecker 1, wasn't able to get through this shield when the Dethroner held it up. Also, Shadow was hiding behind the wall with Ricotta, staying near its aspect, and I don't think he was able to contribute to Dethroner's shields falling. If that falls just a second and a half sooner, maybe that whole point fight is different. Late game, that will not be an option, so I think SK, although they won this one, will probably have to have a better strategy going into next round. And if we look at the KDAs, it might have to do with this Dragon, who has not found a lot of kills. 1 and 2 on the day. Notably, Bitey, 2-0.
Same thing with Ricotta, 2-0, although Bitey has a couple more assists in the bank, but like you said, 1 and 2, 0 and 1 there for Invocal as well. A lot of slash lines. The kills that are coming through are the front lines. So it's mainly going to be Dethroner and Bitey that are making the impact right here. And unfortunately, that can look good for point captures. That can look good in a game, but I feel like that's not something you can rely on. I feel like once you don't have a DPS behind you, that's when things start to scale, especially as items come online. The later the game goes, the better it starts to look, I think, for Splyce if they can continue this performance.
Vayne holding down this left side well, and all of the cooldowns for the rocket boots and the bowling ball resets have really, really made a difference. And Vocal has done a good job to stay in line of sight, doing damage while also taking some pressure. But
is Vayne invisible?
Payan is the one that you need to see, I think, just punishing this Barrack, and he seems to be able to do it really well. Its aspect throws a Solar Blessing. He's going to be the one who finds the Drogoz, and wow, just like that, it's a nice stall out. And Vogel finds the headshot, but it's to no avail. Ricotta, deathless, as well as Wi-Fi. The only two aside from Aspect who maintain that streak.
And both supports not dying, I think, is another way to really color this canvas with the way things are going.
I agree.
If
tells a story,
we start
right?
seeing Aspect fall, if we start seeing Wi-Fi fall, all of a sudden you start seeing SK, that Dethroner play doesn't happen. That point capture doesn't happen. If he becomes maybe a higher priority target because he hasn't died, it's going to make a difference. But the other reason, the reason that push doesn't go well, the reason they maintain control is because he's not the target. You're looking at Payan, who, again, like we've said, if he has a standout performance, that changes everything about this game.
Right.
He's 1 and 3. They're shutting him down.
The thing I like about both lineups is that Fernando, if he wants to, can go push. And he can apply pressure to its aspect on the backside. There's a Dread Serpent early from Wi-Fi, but on the other side, Splyce also have the Makoa, but they don't have Invocal, who's hitting headshots and taking down Shadow. Now this gives SK room to play around. I said they'd have to do something different, and oh, they did. Nice start there to finish off the castle.
And Strix, that reveal, the reason he's hitting these shots so consistently on Ricotta is part of the reason that people do value him when it comes down to this matchup. The reason he has an edge.
Off the
he
map.
can stealth and he can come through. G-Bunny going to be able to survive through that one, although low health, and that's 63% right now for SK.
And here's where issues go. You see that fire spit just forced away They're doing such a good job of holding down all the lines of sight, but watch out. This Drogoz is going to get targeted. He's still trying to find the point, but look at this. He's been exposed, and Payan loses his life. The Throner has to back up. There's the Ancient Rage. Splyce, their turn on the objective, and oh boy, with the Inflame, it becomes real hard to imagine G-Bunny not finding 2 kills, but Wi-Fi still does not go down, and SK have a fighting chance.
That was just one of the showings of why it can be very awkward to pop an Ancient Rage. Yes, you can use it for the health, but he had no shell spin, no hook available, and those cooldowns are important because you're now melee range. You have to bring them to you, or you need to get in their face, and he had nothing to do that. Vayne forced to pop the Dome Shield just to stay alive and on the point, and it's at 69%, but that 81 on the other side is still looking good.
I mean, Payan, yes, you're fighting into a really horrible lineup. Cassie, Kinessa, you know, even a Furia who can do a ton of damage, especially with the amount of inflames that are coming through, but boy, oh boy, if Invokal isn't doing what he's doing and at least finding pressure onto Shadow, this is a tough, tough matchup for SK to win. You're right, Gore. This is going neck and neck already. We can tell a Frog Isle game that and sometimes is already over for teams who are 4-0ing. Still 7 minutes gone by, and it's only 2-1 in the favor of Splyce.
Being able to take that, but it was a very controlling point once Splyce were able to hold on to it. Once they got rid of SK, they were able to get there. And it's all looking, again, Payan trying to get in. He gets a kill, but he goes down immediately. If Drogoz is living through, I mean, if we see what we saw out of Random Noob earlier, it's a completely different story, and that is going to be the pace. Invokal can get a little bit of pressure down, and like you said, the minute that pressure disappears, there's nothing really for SK to push forward.
And you know what's interesting? It was almost into the same lineup, but what really has been what we can see the difference here is that Kinessa outperforming the Strix on Frog Isle, and Invokal hitting headshots, like having to overperform here to just match what Rakata's doing pretty effortlessly. 0 deaths. That couldn't have come at a better time. And I'm gonna stop what I'm saying right there because I think Invokal says, you know what, Rain Day? Yeah, the caveat you mentioned was me doing stuff like that, so I'm just gonna keep doing stuff like that. Don't try to rush to the conclusion of this match before it's over.
That is the perfect example, a prime example of what we like to call caster's curse.
I really got shut up right there.
It happens all the time.
Not a lot of teenagers can shut me up like that, but Invokal certainly did.
He gave you the perfect counterpoint. You need Finch in here because he was on the debate team.
Absolutely love it. There is the Kinessa Headhunter. Payan, he's going to back off a little bit, and he knows that things are about to get to the nitty-gritty as far as pressure goes. G-Bunny slides in, and Payan's just going to slide out. He is not willing to fight against this Makoa. Ancient Rage almost at the ready. Solar Blessing waiting for him if he can get there. And he's actually just going to wait around the corner. Can't quite make it to the first duration of that Solar Blessing. Fury and heal.
Splyce are having trouble being able to get back around this, taking a lot of damage. 990 right now for G-Bunny, which is still a good chunk of health. Not enough to really feel comfortable on as Makoa. Whereas Shadow's trying to figure out how to help them break back into this. But I like the way SK are playing this. They're not leaving the base. They're not aggressing too far. If they take too many steps forward, they fall down. Right where they are is perfect for this defense.
And it's so good, you know, fighting in this. 78 health. He's going to get a heal. I would imagine he'd have to. He's got plenty of time. Oh, another heal. They bought time. They did for the Solar Blessing. Oh, wow. So he's just going to go away. Doesn't want to give the kill. Doesn't want to give any more damage. G-Bunny's just going to call it quits. Both the teams playing like there's something on the line because there certainly is. It's a very, very competitive set. And here's that moment, I think. Maybe Invokal with a nice just reveal. He knows exactly where Rakata is. 1200. Jumps up. Doesn't even land.
A lot of this match, I think, is determined by these snipers. 7, 2, and 4 right now for Invokal. 5, 2, and 4 for Rakata. But whichever one dies first is the one that's going to make a difference. Or even just gets poked out. Even if it's just a slight poke. Rakata hits one shot, Invokal has to fall back. That means Rakata can start focusing on Payan. He can start focusing on Wi-Fi. He can look at the Throner, Bitey. Everyone else becomes a target. And none of those are going to be looking towards hitting him. Maybe Payan, but he's going to be a little bit more distracted with Shadow. And the same thing really goes if you take care of Rakata, all of a sudden everyone else is such an easy target for Invokal.
Right. And it's just been so difficult to get to him. And what we were saying is that Invokal's just had so much more pressure than Rakata's had to face, or Rakata's stayed away from the pressure enough. I think it's just maybe treading this line. But he's worked with coaching Invokal and getting him some more experience. He's got the talent. He's got the youth. But does he have what he needs in terms of the veteranship, the experience to be in the right spot at the right time. Ricotta again finds Pain. It's been a really rough day for him on the Drogos thus far. You're counting on more from that pick, I think.
Being able to get a little bit of pressure, that's 51%. Another Ancient Rage going to be used in the face, but G-Bunny eats a Hexifier, and he's still alive. Makes it not only out, but he's getting healed up, and he's going to be able to hold on to this. That 81 is turning into 100 real fast, and that's going to force SK to move.
See, this is what makes me a little bit... I like it. I think I like just the patience to work as 5, but when you give it up like that and you don't commit to G-Bunny, I just feel like it's a wasted opportunity. You know, you want to go as 5, but if you wait for your 5 and then you can't go, what's the point of going as 5? That might have been your chance. He gets out, he commits, you don't commit back. Well, that's ending up being the difference. Splyce win 2 points in a row, and they're more aggressive. They're making things happen, and yet again, 27 health. Shadow gets out alive. Cannot take things away, though, from the way its Aspect is playing on this Fury. It's,
and, you know,
heals when they need it.
In risk of missing something that might be important, I do want to say,
look, the risk.
This is a very
he's taking it.
Interesting dynamic. SK Gaming is a team with a few veterans,
yeah,
right? Bringing in new players and trying to make it work and look incredible. Whereas Splyce, even though they were a team of rookies, a team from the PGS, formerly Toxicity,
yeah,
they have played together. They have been a 5-man team for a long time. They know each other incredibly well.
Wow.
And I think that dynamic is kind of showcasing in just the communication coming down from Splyce.
Is there any world where you experience a Splyce 3-0 against SK? Is there any world you thought that might happen?
I honestly, after watching the way SK floundered last week, where it looked really strong and then everything just came up as nothing.
Yeah.
And based on what we saw at the end of the summer split, this is the kind of Splyce roster I want to see find success.
Well, Tiny there to capitalize. Ult's used. And great presence. You would assume that he's running the Cauterize, otherwise he's getting some help from his friends. In terms of the itemization category, no real reason to run Wrecker here. One of the best Cauterize appliers. He does end up hitting those rockets. And a minute left. Splyce are at the doorstep, 1 foot in. And just squeezing through. SK applying some pressure, trying to close it, but man, they cannot kick them fully out of the property. And it's looking like this could be close to the end.
A lot of, I want to say a big issue I would more recommend is that SK Vayne has been kind of invisible to them. They haven't been looking at him. He's been sitting on the side shooting a lot, and there have been times where he becomes the main focus. Okay, maybe this barrack is doing too much damage to us, but there are other times where it's, well, we need to look at Makoa, we need to look at Ricotta, we need to look at Shadow. We can't look at Vayne the entire time, and he's getting a lot of like silent damage in there.
I think Pain is just, to me, the bigger question. And Vocal's playing out of his mind. Again, the man went 31-9. How can you say that he needs to perform better? He's hitting headshots. He's winning duels he probably shouldn't win. Duels that are not to his advantage. He's overperforming, in my opinion. I think Dethroner and Wi-Fi are working well. I think the issue is Bitey having this ruckus, maybe needing to have a little bit more of an impact over the course of a game with his aggression, maybe getting to the back line like we saw G-Bunny do with the Makoa. Or maybe just the fact that Pain is just having a completely countered out moment there on Frog Isle. It's rough. You have to look at these things that aren't working, though, in order to find out how to fix it. You can't shy away from them and say, well, just another one that we lost. You've got to try to narrow down the reasons why.
And this actually is a really good illustration of the fact that Pain was doing damage. I mean, 100k is not hard to put up, although 111 coming down from Invocal. But your Drogos, and I'm curious to see out of that 100k, how many kills he actually had, because those stats, that conversion rate matters a lot. He was 5 and 8, so he was running negative, but looking at the 8 and 3, that's the difference. In Vocal, most of that damage is getting converted into kills for himself. When Pain was hitting, it wasn't always actually accomplishing anything.
I think really what it's all about, well, we got, remember we can stay right here. One of the things that it's really all about for Igor is just that we do see the Drogos and Combustible try to create this pressure where then somebody else can capitalize on it in your back line, whether it's a Kinessa or a Strix, any sniper that you choose. The issue is I don't feel like he's doing that quite. We might want to see 130,000, 140,000 damage from the pay-in to be able to give Invocal just one taps, easy shots. Invocal's hitting the first shot and he's hitting the second. Pay-in is doing Drogos things, there's no doubt about it. But it might just be the positioning. It might just be getting caught out by the Makoa hooks one too many times, or being in the line of sight of Ricotta on this Kinessa.
I feel like the conversation's in a very similar vein to Alex from Mouse Sports, what we've been talking about with him, where it's just, we know you're capable of a phenomenal performance, but you got to show us another one. Like, you can't just let us go on the hearsay or what we've seen in the past. You have to continue that kind of escalation.
Yeah.
And Ricotta was able to accomplish that. We know Ricotta's an accomplished sniper. We've seen him do it against some of the best teams and cause them trouble.
Right.
And knowing that you are going Drogos, that has to kind of counter, or that has to come to the equation, right? Where it's just like, how effective am I actually going to be on this champion if I'm getting sniped every single time I show my head?
And it's not that a Drogos can't do it against a sniper. We saw Random Noob do it the time before.
True.
But the other thing is that the draft has always gone wrong for me for SK. And it's not that it went wrong. It's just that when you look at on Frog Isle, two things you can do. You can stay back, try to fight with your snipers, or you can have a point fight where you decide, let's get aggressive. Let's send one of our front lines to go and attack their back line. Because they usually draft the fat flankers, the ones like the Fernandos, the Ashes, the Makoas, who just get in there. They do the same job, but they're just tankier and they can last and get healed up. The problem was, what happens when Fernando on the side of SK Dethroner goes to play that tank? Ruckus on the point? That's not great. I mean, Bitey didn't have a good secondary tank. I think if there's an Inara there, obviously ban, but if there's a Khan there, obviously ban. There's a different conversation.
Sure.
And they have a lot more flexibility. You send the Ash back, or you send the Makoa back, but you still have Barrack on the point. He could do okay. He could buy time with the shields, the turrets, the bowling ball resets. I feel like it was just a matter of composition that, again, SK, there's so many things, little things to look at. We can kind of go on and on, but now it's game 2 at Splitstone Quarry. SK with the first pick. They will take the Androxus for Invocal.
And this is the perfect time to start changing that up. This is also going to be a map that SK has shown a lot of prowess on in the past, and I think Invocal, at this point, if you give him Drogos or Androxus, he's going to look a little scary, and I like the idea of going Androxus first, just because it is going to say, look, this is something we are going to bet on, but there's not a lot of counters. There's not a lot of way that just stops him inherently. You just have to play better than him. And I think that's going to be the difference with Splyce. When you get Fernando and Nara, you're talking about people who can control the point, and you pretty much give it all up.
I like that they go for the Androxus, but what it does feel like happens is then they kind of counter pick for against Splyce, where they take the Furia away from the Inara, and I feel like A, such a good game from its aspect, so they want the Furia. B, it pairs very well. Another option is to go Willow there and try to shut that down. Might maybe try to play on the point. There really is only one time a front line or people are fighting on that point. And so you may have the opportunity to fight. And there it is. There's the Willow. So they do get it. They get it later on. And it ends up being the Kinessa, Furia, and Willow that come through towards the end of the draft.
And I love the way SK drafted this. Because the way they go through it, they're like, all right, well, we got Androxus. Okay, there's no direct counter to Androxus. Well, we get Barrack, we get Furia. Okay, you can deal with them, but it's not necessarily easy, and it's not really telling. You don't know what our damage is going to be. And then you see two front lines, 2 DPS come down on the side of Splyce, and you're just like, all right, you have to get a healer. There's no way you can pick a Strix. There's no way you can pick something that's going to deal with this Kinessa or this Willow easily well. You do have Leon, so there's going to be at least a little pressure, but
it's a risk for sure. It's a risk for sure, because it's not like you can't G2 this and just play, and really Na'Vi this as well, and just play around the sniper. We saw it done so well against Mouse Sports and Stone Keep. You can play around the sniper. And I think, anybody who's been watching, and I know all these players did watch, it doesn't seem like it's that hard to do. It's going to be a challenge. And Invocal, he is going to be the one on the Kinessa. The question is, can Androxus apply enough pressure to open things up for Invocal? I think that's really how it needs to work. Bitey on the Willow. And again, we talked about this, the switching of the roles. He's their flex. Can he have a big-time performance here? Captain of SK, turn things around after game 1. Goes to Splyce.
Curious to see who is going to make that big explosive start. Right now, Vayne getting aggressive, and this is something he's known for. Even though he's a Nara, he likes to get in your face. He's half health, though, and that's a dangerous spot to be in. Even with a Maldamba behind you, even with a Maldamba supporting you, you have to play carefully. And Pan, moving on to this Androxus, there's big question marks, but Invocal is the one to find the first
He
one.
just headshot her. Like, that's how Invocal's playing right now. He's literally like, you get 2 shots on me, and I turn around and I just literally one-shot headshot you. That is the level this man has gone. And you know what? SK or not, next season, I'm looking for Invocal, wherever he stays, to be a part of my roster. I'm trying to buy him from somebody else. This man has improved leaps and bounds. He's so young, such a bright future ahead of him. I mean, just sitting that shot. I mean,
that's the
what else do you need to say?
Right he literally just might have.
He stepped up, man.
Written him a check. With the way things are going, it is not easy to hit 2 consecutive headshots like that. And that, I mean, that's going to be almost 5,000 damage dumped into that Inara as well. So really the cause of that death, even though Bitey gets the kills, it's pretty much Invocal being able to pilot that. And again, you can see this is SK's map. This is something that they are very good with.
It's the fearlessness, in my opinion, man. It's just the fearlessness. I absolutely love it. Pyre Strike there actually ends up hitting Rakana, and Wi-Fi cleans it up. Again, great roll swap from Wi-Fi on the support. He's been so solid. And I really like to throw her on the Barrack. Not an easy position to be the solo Barrack against a Fernando and Nara. And especially with Leon kind of anti-healing you. It's like you need every bit of healing as you can get. But somehow SK managed it. It's a really smart draft. It's a Coach Bitey draft that ends up working out in round 1.
And as long as it feels comfortable for them, I think that's the big difference for SK, like you said. Having that confidence, not only for Invocal, but really for the rest of them, just being able to say, look, you can win this fight. For Pan as well, to be able to go from that Drogoz to an Androxus and find success on one, even though, admittedly, that Drogoz did not look that great. His performance is going to make a big difference. When Invocal isn't around, how SK perform is going to make a big difference. And I think that's still where the onus lies, right? You have to be able to go past it. You can't have Invocal carry you on Splitstone every single time things start going wrong.
Gore. And you can exchange Splitstone with Ascension Peak. You can exchange Splitstone with any map, because Invocal right now, Frog Isle for sure, has been doing the lion's share of the damage work. He needs a partner. He needs to go 50-50 with somebody. And Payan right now getting started with the Accursed Arm. It's a nice beginning, especially with him finding Rakata, finding the anti-heal, and that allows Bitey to go up into the Fae Flight without having to worry about getting countered out. Good stuff from SK. They just got to keep this up.
Splyce are on the back foot. 19-0 there for Vayne.
Bitey.
And while he's aggressive, I think that's good for Vayne. At the same time, you see him getting caught out a lot more because of it. I don't think it's necessarily detrimental to their play, but there's a lot of times, especially against a Willow, a dead zone, if you see the Inara walking into you, it makes it a lot easier.
I mean, Payan, take the fight, dog. I mean, this is a Cassie. You already hit her for a headshot, and he runs away. I think this is maybe more of the question, right? Is it really Payan's talent that we're looking at here? I personally am of a mind that Payan has the ability to do things Invocal's doing. But it may take the time that it took Invocal to get there. It's going to take some confidence. You're not going to get it in a week. And I think if you get it in a week, you're more of like happily surprised versus like, oh, man, you're underperforming. I don't think Payan is underperforming by any means. But the problem with the PPL and HRX is that now it's go time. If he was on season 1, if he was in the spring split with SK, I mean, I think SK are completely different beast. Yeah, completely different beast here.
And I think that is the kind of difference, and we've talked about it a couple times, whether or not this split might mean the end of the roster of SK as we know it. Yeah. Kind of having relics from last year where they were successful, and the slow fall, I want to say it's been, where it at first was kind of a big trip off of a ledge, and then it wasn't as much of a dip. It's just been slowly but surely falling behind as everyone else is on that grind to get a little bit better. But instilling that into Pan and Invocal, the things that have made them great players, it's one of the things that we actually see when you look at pretty much any competitive league. As much as it sucks, sometimes there is a team that is kind of known for being able to train those new guys, and then they are the next Fnatic. They're the next Na'Vi. They're the ones looking at the top where they're just like, look, we were nothing 2 days ago. They molded us into a diamond.
I'm really all about, I think, growth in people, in players. I think we're seeing a lot of it in the PPL. I think there's still a lot of time. New faces get brought in each split, and those new faces get opportunities. I'm also a realist in the idea that sometimes you can be as good as you want, but you get one opportunity to show it to the person that matters.
Yeah.
And I think in this case, it's show it to the league that matters, show it to the players that you're playing against. As much as I love and I believe that in a year from now, Pan could be one of the biggest threats in this game, is he going to make the difference now to be able to do it for SK? That's, I think, what matters. So far, Rakata has definitely shown he's shown up to play. Its Aspect has been on the winning side, and this time around, Vocal doesn't hit a couple headshots, and Splyce are dominant.
93, 99, clean. Being able to just stand on the point, and a lot of it on the back of the 7 streak from Rakata, but a lot of damage still coming down from this Cassie. And it's something similar to what I would say was the old Shaolin Cassie combo, where it's just like we're going to have someone who is either going to be able to finish you in just this quick combo, or someone who's going to be able to set up a quick combo. Whether or not they actually hit all of it doesn't necessarily matter. Cassie can get a lot of poke, can even get a couple kills there from Shadow, but the two of them working in tandem is really what's making it so deadly.
Yeah, I mean, Shadow's been really good. And it's interesting because Shadow gets a triple kill here, and no one even knows he's there. I mean, Bitey gets caught out.
Looking everywhere else.
It's 3 shots on Bitey before he even turns left. Payan shows up with 0 health. I ask you, why don't you push Shadow when you are pushing the objective and you headshot him and you have full health, but you decide to push him when you have 0 health? 2 of your teammates just died. To me, this is where you see, oh, it's just hesitation. Minute and 30. Shadow looking good. 9 streak for him. Cassie ultimate on the ready. Splyce, 4 members on a streak, and Fernando the only one who has died recently. And there's the Cassie reveal. They want to know exactly where they are. I've only got one front line to get through Gore, and it is a barrack. And there is Payan finding Vayne. That's a big kill for him. Payan with a double kill, waking up maybe. The Giant approaches as his slumber has been disturbed, and he goes for the Rock Monkey. What is it with Shadow that he just doesn't get? What is it with Shadow? Do they have history?
I mean, I don't know what it is. Shadow, honestly, in that kind of scenario, that is like, they're fortunate that Bitey is there, because I think that turns into more kills if he stays alive.
You know that song? All the right moves in all the right places.
Yeah.
It's just all the wrong moves in all the wrong places when Payan sees Shadow.
Too aggressive, and it's like a bull when he sees red, right? Like, he's just like, I'm gonna go for that guy, and it's not always the best decision. Even though Cassie is a problem, Shadow has been a huge problem, and you do need to get rid of him.
You do.
Like you said, it's choosing the right moves to get to, like you said, the right place.
Yeah, but it's not even that. It's like he decides to punch, and maybe he has to reload, sure, but he decides to punch twice instead of reload, shoot once, and that time is what ends up killing him. And the other times he doesn't push him, or he lets him get pushed. You know, Payan has this really interesting kind of dynamic where Shadow is just getting the better end of him, and maybe it's the Cassie-Andro matchup, which doesn't lean particularly any way, although Cassie very good at defending against flanks. Either one can win. It's based on the player, really. But Payan still top damage, and you got to say, how can you get upset with a 10-4 slash line?
True.
If anything, it wasn't Vocal who didn't perform last round. And instead of going 2-2-2, he became 2-4-9, so 7 assists, but 2 deaths as well, and no finishing blows. Those all went the way of the Androxus.
Those 9 assists, though, are very important, I think, for what Invocal was doing, because during the initial round, and this goes for a lot of maps with snipers, especially when I feel Splitstone and Serpent Beach, because of their layout. On the point fight, that's when Invocal is going to be reigning supreme. That's when his headshots matter, all his damage. Whether or not he's converting the kill doesn't matter as much as long as he is applying some pressure onto Splyce. But when it comes to pushing and defending, there are nowhere near as many spots for him to sit. There's nowhere for him to really have that performance. And that's when the onus becomes, can Bitey, can Payan step up to fill the void that is this sniper?
I like the way that they're playing this. I think Bitey is really smart about using his wide AoE kind of shots to just get information for SK. But already, he's getting some pressure from G-Bunny. He loves this Fernando, and now Invocal is doing a nice, clever switch up to the high ground. He baits the low ground and now gets G-Bunny off that aggressive flank. The Throner and Wi-Fi looks so much more comfortable here. And this is a really good point 5 from SK. They react, they adjust. And this is, I think, starting to make me realize why you thought this might be a best-of-5 set, Gore.
And it is just because these teams, it's a very push-and-pull vibe from them.
It is.
You can see Splyce learning from SK and SK learning from Splyce. They don't know exactly how to expect these teams because they're both pretty new, honestly, when it comes into it. You go up against G2, you know how G2 is going to play. You go against Envy, you don't know what they're going to draft because they are insane with that, but you know how they're going to play.
Yep.
Splyce and SK are really big question marks to everyone.
Oh, man. Payan makes it out alive, and he goes to the accursed arm. Wow, that was risky, but I like it. He makes a risky play, but he ends up getting Vayne, and SK grabbed the objective. It was not in vain, his play, and maybe this is what we want to see from Payan moving on, just the ability to make those snap decisions, choose a take, and just commit to it.
Splyce, G-Bunny gets aggressive. Shadow's getting a couple kills, although they're trading it off. The big thing, I guess, is that the payload's not moving, so SK do have to figure out how to get back there. But that was all without the Androxus.
Yeah.
And with the way that Payan is playing now, again, almost a completely different person than what we saw in the Drogas during the last game, it feels like it's a comfortable way for them to buy back that space. Even if he just gets one kill onto someone like Ricotta, you can already see SK taking over the area to make sure that Splyce are having to retreat.
Bitey here on the 2 streak. Oh, it gets nice and up, and that's a really, really good surprise. But what's great is that G-Bunny is there as well. And Vayne and Invocal having a little bit of a battle. Invocal will ultimately force Vayne back, and he just wants the line of sight. He hits it, misses the headshot, though. Leon, slim, slender figure. does not have the biggest head in the world, unlike our Vulpine friend Pip or our Dwarven friend Barrick. So the spray and consent to say, yes, yes, I did miss that shot. One of the rare ones for Vocal.
And a nice little reset moment. I think that's one thing, you know, sometimes there are the BM sprays.
There are.
And there are the, I'm just going to do something that makes me move my mouse, my keyboard, my hand to give me a reset moment. And then I'm going to come back in, and this is big for snipers, reset your scope to be able to say, I'm going to zero in on where exactly I'm aiming. A lot of these players use their elbow to aim because it's going to give you a little bit more precision in where you're flicking to.
Yeah.
And I think that is helping Invocal be on this 10 streak that he's been able to build.
So elbow on the mouse, huh?
Yeah, you.
Wow,
when you're sniping, you have this big old flick. No one can see, so it doesn't make sense for me to show it off.
I love it.
You know, there's been a big discussion for a long time in shooters as to whether or not it's a wrist aimer or an elbow, or I guess arm is the other term. It's not just the elbow. You kind of move your body with it.
I mean, one person might actually imagine the elbow on the mouse controlling.
Oh yeah, using the elbow.
Yeah. How do you right click and left click with just your elbow?
You just try real hard.
You try real hard. Gets a little sloppy, I'm not going to admit. That part is kind of hard to figure out, but once you get the hang of it, bro, I'm telling you, you are going to love it.
Next level strategy.
Next level
All the top shooter players are using it.
I don't personally do it, but I know that it works. That's totally a guy who's like, now I'm not following the advice I'm giving you, but I'm going to still really commit to the advice
I don't know if I trusted. Like, the minute someone says that they don't actually follow whatever advice they're giving you,
bro,
it's kind of like,
You should for sure be vegan, bro. Eating burgers is thank you. Yeah, I had the medium rare. Eating burgers and beef is just so bad for the environment. Can you pass the steak knife? Thank you.
Yeah, I couldn't do that. I couldn't handle that.
I mean,
I don't know how I would handle that situation.
If you're telling me to do it, but you're not doing it yourself, we got a problem.
15 seconds.
Because there's a story.
I'm trying
behind
to
that.
imagine that I get into a scenario, like how I even get to the scenario where I'm talking to someone like that at dinner, and like willingly sitting there
telling you to
dinner.
be vegan while they order a steak. Hey man, I'm sure it has happened to someone who's listening. I'm sure someone has been told to do something that they're actively knowing, or even in the process of watching the other person not do.
It happens all the time, especially with family.
Oh,
family
yeah.
advice is always like that.
Do it. You ever heard of it? It wouldn't be a saying. Do as I say, not as I do, right? And at this point, Shadow and Ricotta and the rest of Splyce, I mean, just absolutely just crazy point fight here. There's no structure to these fights and this narrative. It's like one team wins, the other team dominates, and it goes back and forth. It's copying someone's homework, but mid-round, you're taking breaks, letting one other person write a paragraph, and then the other person copies that paragraph, and then that person writes another paragraph, and the other person copies that one. It's a trade, but this trade seems to be getting no positive benefits for either team, unless Splyce here somehow come on top yet again. That would be a real surprise with how well SK have performed last round up until now.
That 99%'s looking real good. Pan and Vogel, though, going to get a couple kills. Vayne is standing here, and it depends on whether or not Pan can actually convert this. The wall goes up. The headshots were good, and it's actually going to continue that streak. That's going to push him back.
Okay.
But everyone, the pressure is on from Splyce.
Now, SK, this is a hard situation. You don't have everyone with you. You don't have zone set up. You have to anticipate, and you have to react. And I think that's a little early for Payne to give his position away. Shadow knows exactly where he is, where he needs to push. Now Payne all the way back. Oh, man, they're only 99. You got to have an angle onto the objective. You've used your dashes now. You're floating midair, and oh, boy, Payne looks like he might go down here. This is a good flank by Shadow. Honestly, it's a great couple of shots. He tried to turn it around, but now Wi-Fi is exposed. Feels like SK gave up a little bit too much. And that's going to be an anticlimactic Splyce victory.
I genuinely thought there was a moment at the tail end where a couple of shots from Cassie miss, and the minute Payne turns around, I'm like, this is the moment. Just 2 headshots. That's all you need, and you can go into this fully.
Not from that range.
And then that's exactly what it comes down to. Androxus, really good when he's right next to you. Pretty good from 10 feet away. 20 feet away, it starts falling off. 30 feet away, it starts feeling a lot worse. You have to pace those shots a lot differently.
Usually, you know what you can't tell your friends about, as we see the post-game stats here. Clip that, take a look at it. Splyce and SK had a lot to go back and forth about, but it ended up being Splyce 2-0 again. One of the interesting things is when somebody tells you that something's disgusting or that something's like bad or you should watch it, a lot of times they are actually telling you the truth. But what's funny is they want you to kind of join in their pain, join in the moment of disgustingness, so to speak. and they will say, hey, man, this soda's so gross. Try it. Right? Oh, man, this is horrible. Just take this. You know, test it out.
A lot.
That's common. That's common. I have no idea why I was saying that, though. I lost my train of thought. I had a great point. You know, one of those Rain 8 points where you're like, how does this connect? Oh, okay.
All I can think of, and again, this is something that I'm not sure how it connects, either to the game or to the point, is when they ran the purple ketchup way back in the day. It was a long time ago.
Oh, from Heinz?
Yeah, when they had, like, I think there was purple, there was green, there's obviously the standard red, but I think there was another color in there
Not for
as
me,
well.
brother. Not for me.
And it didn't taste different, but it's like, why are you putting purple ketchup on my burger? Like, chill.
You ate it, didn't you?
Yeah, and it still tasted the same, admittedly.
This is the man who tells you this is who it is.
When I was a kid, I loved it.
What are you doing? Making purple ketchup on a burger, meanwhile eating purple ketchup on a burger.
I didn't have much of a choice. What am I going to tell my parents? I'm not going to eat this burger because they have
a choice in eating purple ketchup. I refuse to believe that people are forced to eat purple ketchup in their lives. And if they are, we need to stop that immediately. And I will run for president to make sure that doesn't happen anymore. Any little boy, any little girl, any family serving purple ketchup and forcing their children to eat it should be disallowed in America.
It's been like 18 years since anyone's done it, but it's never happening again.
You had a choice, Gore Miser. You chose to eat it. The purple ketchup, that is.
Purple ketchup. I wouldn't mind.
And those are facts.
I wouldn't mind.
And those are facts.
I think it'd be fun.
Hey, man, listen,
it's fine. There was a period I liked it as a kid, then the period where I was like, why did that happen?
You can
I think I've come full circle.
You can eat purple ketchup, and you can complain about eating purple ketchup. You cannot have both. They do not work together.
Well, since there's no more purple ketchup, I'll just keep complaining.
Perfect. There you go. You've chosen your path.
When it comes back, I'll double back. But
yes.
Until then.
And I can't wait. I hope this happens on cast as well, so we have the legacy. It's SK fighting for their last chance here. A loss to Splyce would assuredly do them in here in the final split of the PPL heading into HRX. And with a new roster, with Payan, with Dethroner, you would hate to see that happen so early. But it would give Splyce a little bit of hope. It would give them a choice here on how they would handle their fate heading into matches against, of course, the top dogs here in Renegades and Envy and G2. Still, a lot of story to be told for the rest of the boys playing here.
We do see a transition, I guess, from what we had seen earlier. A lot of frontline bans have been coming through, typically, not only today, but in the weeks of past. Now you see the Jogos, you see the Anjoxes come through, which I think is important for both of those because that means both teams are pretty deadly on that. But Inara, Makoa, Willow, Leon is incredible for Splyce. Maldamba going to just kind of fill that role. But Khan making it through does make a difference. Bonus damage on him plus the bonus damage on Tyra.
I mean, this is like everybody pick your weapons. That's what this is like. Everything's allowed.
TDM that happens to have capture points inside of it.
Yeah, this is Smite, 100,000 gold. You get any item you want. Let's just see who can burst who. They got a lot of threats on the table. I mean, I look at Splyce's roster and I see perfection. Everything you want. You got a blaster, you got a hit scan. You got anti-heal in 2 sources. You got the best sustain tank in the game. You've got one of the best healers paired with that sustain tank. And then you have arguably the most banned character in the history of Paladins esports in Makoa. Now you look on the other side, Barrick's made a rise. Sure, arguably top healer. In Vocal, arguably a top picker ban, especially if you're looking at Europe. Payan, most consistent damage dealer pick in Paladins esports history. And you've got Khan, unequivocally one of the best tanks in the game. Everyone has such huge threats. Again, the draft not deciding more than what these players will do with these characters.
And that's going to be a big threat. G-Bunny once again on this Makoa. We saw it in game number 1. It looked good then. The hooks hardly missed, and I expect something very similar. But if Shadow gets stunned out by stuff like that too often, it should mean his life right there barely getting away. And SK are giving up a lot of space right now. It's 27 to 54, but they are all just locked in this low ground.
I don't know why they sent Tyra low against the Willow. It does seem like it was a very aggressive flank that didn't pay. I mean, they didn't even contest Cathedral. And now with the Inara, where do you go from here? I think this point is just lost. I really do.
Especially with that spread. You see 2 of them fall back to base. Wi-Fi
she has
regrettably goes left, same with Bitey, but unfortunately that is not exactly the safest spot to be in. And because of that, he ends up going down. Tyra Firebomb goes for a long-range shot.
Can we see damage?
The combos that are coming out right now out of Splyce is looking clean and crisp.
Can we see the damage charts, please? I mean, mile ahead.
Enough said.
Doubling the top damage on SK. Willow has done the damage of the 2 top characters on SK by herself.
Which, by the way, are competing. Cassie right now is trying to fight with the 2 front lines to reach that damage. It's just showcasing how much SK, I want to say, isn't getting out of their composition right now versus what you are seeing out of this Willow. And Shadow is playing it perfectly. He has had a phenomenal day. And if he can keep this up, I mean, it's just burst after burst after burst. Even if he doesn't finish him off, he's forcing SK back.
It's an interesting kind of situation we got here, man. You know, the biggest thing for me and one of the biggest takeaways, Ricotta's been super consistent. I've really impressed with his play. He talked about grinding. He talked about, I won't even like sleep. I won't go to the gym. I'm just going to sit down and work. And I love the mentality. I don't know if I love that idea. I love the fact that he goes to the gym. I love the fact that he takes care of himself. I think you should still put time into that. But I just love the commitment that him and the Splyce boys have shown to improve it. The other thing that's been noticeable for me, Gore, man, Shadow is a problem. Shadow is a problem for SK. He is doing the damn thing.
And this is actually something, and I have it slated potentially to talk on Gather Round after we get through with the set, but looking at kind of the combo that is coming through right now, Ricotta and Shadow together is the deadliest thing, because like you said, if you're not looking at Shadow, he's getting all of this damage done, and Ricotta, because he's performing so consistently, is able to clean up on that. Right now, he's almost able to turn it around on a Khan. That Seedling is so close to being perfect, but lucky for Khan, he has a heal.
Yeah.
He can just back on out of there.
I can't believe it. I mean, I thought Ricotta was dead to rights. Even Bitey did. And Ricotta, all of a sudden, shows up, starts firing away, and Bitey's like, whoa, no. Oh, wow, that's a lot of damage. And that's a lot of points. 2-0 in under 4 minutes and 10 seconds. Splyce are about to 3-0 SK unless this point drastically changes. And he is still doing the damage worth the top 2 players in SK.
2 people that are deathless on the side of Splyce. And it's Aspect, the healer, arguably probably the one person you want to die the most. And Shadow, who, with the damage he's doing, the second person that you want to die the most. Ricotta having only 1 death, Vayne having only 1 death, and G-Bunny's been taking the brunt of it. I mean, he ate essentially a full crossfire.
Oh, look at that.
I mean, Invocal just didn't care.
And I mean, it's 60,000 healing. It's double the healing that everyone on SK. It's double the healing. It's double the damage.
Yeah.
The value is just, it's an extra 2 players on your team, you know?
You got Faye Flight?
I don't see a lot of 7v5s won in Paladins. I don't see a lot of 7v5s in general. But that's kind of what the numbers are showcasing here as far as the effectiveness. And again, they give up the Cathedral, but this time maybe they get the payoff they're looking for. I don't know what the payoff is. I like that they're making the choice to be aggressive, but against the Willow, I feel like the high ground is something you have to contest for, and maybe they're just saying we won't get the high ground. But not trying has not proven fruitful.
And that ult, even though you don't get what you normally want to accomplish from a Faye Flight, Shadow stays alive there. He was in a position that he would have died otherwise, but being able to float around, kind of take cover in places that you normally would not be able to touch because there actually is no floor there, has made the difference for him. If he can get this kill onto Invocal, it's going to open up so much. That's going to be a nice 1-2 step. And now that 87% for Splyce is playing another man, but there goes G-Bunny and Vayne, both front lines gone.
And Payin's dead as well. Shadow on a 13 streak. Don't think he's died this game. That may change. Seedling near him. Dread Serpent as well. And he's got to step onto the point. Just going to flutter away.
Yeah.
Bitey and SK Gaming absolutely using the combat mechanic to their best. And they're going to go ahead and what looks like capture this objective. SK still in the game, still in the set, not out of it yet. Do not count them out. There's still Paladins to be played.
I will say, though, the floor plan has kind of been set, right? You can
does
kind of
feel that way.
Where Splyce is going with this, and it feels like a 4-2 to be able to close it out, because it feels like SK have that comeback mechanic in their favor for this round, and that admittedly is the only saving grace. If they don't have that, this is Splyce's game easy.
Yeah, that's true.
Then, with the way defense has been going, even if this goes 2-2, even if it goes 3-1, you have to look at comeback mechanic again, or the potential that SK just ride a little bit of momentum. And that's going to depend a lot more around this next arch when the payload gets up there more than anything.
I mean, that's an inflamed Khan. Bitey can't even take a step. This Khan, I mean, obviously, great pick, but it is not being, it's not holding up against the dead zone and the Leon. And what I like about the way that the dead zone is being applied is Shadow is having the presence of mind, we talked about this, to not only be offensive, not only to look for the targets that he should kill, like the back line, like two of the damage dealers that step out of line, like the Payan, but whenever this is here, to support G Bunny and its aspect with the dead zone here, to say, I will save this for a actual chokehold versus just trying to get damage and kills, which we oftentimes see Willow's not manage very well.
As of right now, he's managing.
And this is a great angle for it, right?
And with the way he's playing it as well, it's just a little bit of poke. And then you can see SK a little bit unsure because they're trying to figure out where exactly do I need to stand so that she stops hitting me just for a second so I can get a little bit of a reset. And finally, Shadow's starting to die. Those are ticking up a lot more. That helps with this push, but Vayne is alive. Vayne is standing on the payload right now. And when Shadow starts to falter, Rakata steps up.
Oh my god, did he get that stun? Did its aspect actually stun him from back there? It looked like he had stopped, and I think that might have been, its aspect on a 16 streak. What play from him. But it's a little thing, Score. It's a little things like that. They're just going the way of Splyce. It's a little confidence that having a team of 5 for an extra split ends up meaning in a tight set, in a set that means a lot, where you band together as brothers, you band together as teammates or sisters, whoever you got going on, whatever esports team, whatever sports team you're on. You know, it really doesn't get too complicated. It's about who just really steps up to the plate.
Being able to set it up, and with Shadow again feeling safe. Shields coming around him, trying to keep him alive. Rakata on the side, but he's getting full healed every single time. You're looking at these two again, pincering SK. Wi-Fi doesn't know what hit him before it's too late. He does a dash back, but it's still going to be good for Rakata.
I mean, it felt like they were line dancing there. They both dashed in the same direction. That was, I think that's worthy of a meme video, and you just put like some little classical music, da 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 da. A little waltz there, and a very good play here from Rakata.
Consistency is key.
I would have loved to see if this. He did hit the stun, and I was just going to talk about it. I was going to say I would have loved to see that stun on replay.
There's not much, I think, that is scarier, and it depends on your screen, but we've seen it a few times. Then when you're standing there, you're in a fight, and you see that snake the second before it hits you, because you just get fangs in your face. You recognize what is about to happen. Aspect has not died. He is still doubling the healing of the Furia. He is way up there. The 21 streak. It's dangerous to have, but it looks real good.
Right, and it's play, sure, but it's also draft. And that, we looked at all these threats, they all are top tier in their own way. But one of the things that Splyce unequivocally has over SK is the anti-heal. They have the Willow, they have the Death and Taxes. There is no way anything on SK outside of Leon and Willow could match that by itself. Kinetics, 75%, give me a break. That's not even close to 90% and absolutely zero healing, which is what Splyce have on two heroes. But what they don't have is Dethroner, who's finding himself a double kill onto both front lines. I'm not sure if an Ancient Rage was used there, but he still has the Dome Shield, Dethroner. And though its aspect is still alive, no, the Ancient Rage was not used. So maybe Splyce a little bit more careful with their ultimates, and they do have Vayne getting back onto the objective just in time.
Dome Shield's going to come out. That's going to be a seismic crash coming through, though, trying to get rid of Dethroner, but you eat a lot of damage in the process. This is when the healing and the Firebomb are going to be taking the most effect, but Splyce have moved themselves right back in, and Rakata's getting aggressive.
And that's going to be it, I think, Goremizer. Splyce are going to have its aspect go deathless in this final matchup. Is it going to be that much of a dominating performance? A 3-0 to end the day. Splyce getting their first win of the PPL season. Its aspect on a 26 streak, showing up big time. They don't snake that win away. They absolutely steal it. And SK have some work to do.
And that is, I think, the big thing looking forward. Splyce, an organization that went winless for a long time. This is the roster that got the first win, and now the roster that has gotten the second win for them. And both times have been over SK, so if they can start picking that up, looking at Renegades, looking at G2, maybe not touching Envy just yet, but still looking towards them as the team to try and beat in the future, this is a very promising win and pickup for Splyce.
Totally agree. And that's going to conclude the PPL for North America today, ladies and gentlemen. That was interesting. I did not expect a 3-0. I don't know if SK did. I don't know if Splyce did. But look at that. It's all tied. G2 have taken a loss, so have Renegades, which means that technically, I believe because of maps, Splyce, with the 3-0, are in second place in the PPL. Envy winless, but that's boring. We know that.
And being able to pick up...
lossless, sorry.
I mean, SK gets a win on G2, and again, when you look at some of these things, it doesn't make a big difference in the grand scheme, but Splyce plays G2 later. I'm curious to see how they're going to be able to handle that. If Flame is going to stand up for G2, maybe Splyce gets at least a map, and if that's the case, I feel so much better for this roster than any other Splyce roster that we have seen in the history.
Well, I mean, if Splyce get these wins, but they get them in this fashion, wow, what an interesting set it'll be and story it'll be developing here in North America. And if you want to be a part of the story, or at least the conclusion of it, the final chapter, and if you've read any Brandon Sanderson book, like I've spent the last 6 months friggin' reading Oathbringer, you'll know it always gets good at the end, and that's where you want to be with HRX at DreamHack Atlanta 2018. November 16th through the 18th. HighResExpo.com is where you can find yourself some tickets, see myself, see Gormizer live in action, Pretty Hair, and the rest of the crew from Smite, and also Paladins will be there, and all your pro players that you find as good friends visually. You'll be able to shake their hands, say, hey, I like you. I like watching you. I like watching your team. Well, that's going to do it for today as far as the casting and the matches, but we do have some time to unload, to talk about these new players, how Splyce have gotten that 3-0, the dominance we saw from Envy over Renegades, and just the general state of the PPL in North America on our post-game show, Gather Round. So don't go anywhere. We'll take a quick break, and we'll see you at the roundtable right after this.
I'm still trying to pick apart what my favorite piece of the intro is, and I don't know if there's going to ever be a single spot. But hey, welcome to Gather Round. I'm Gormizer, Rain Day, Pretty Hair, going to be joining me here on the round table. And I mean, what a day.
What a day.
Yeah, man.
It actually blew
different
by.
It was quick. I mean, it's 2 3-0s.
I didn't expect that at all from today.
No, I didn't either.
I mean, I thought we were going to be going 10 games.
Right? Like, wow. I'm just still recovering. And laughing a little bit at that.
Best part about that intro is just how
give us your best part.
fast and natural that happened.
Oh, that was
we were just like, we were all kind of like burnt story. After a day, and we're like, what should we do?
High risk.
This would be funny. Let's go in this room.
Yeah.
And then we just, every little like, we should do this. We just did it, and then ended up making the final cut.
I've heard that there has been discussion as to whether or not that intro would actually be allowed to be live. But I think the last thing Tyler said was, we haven't been told not to anymore, so it's going to keep being played until finally someone says, cut.
I'm going to give credit to
enough is enough.
Our man Matt, who worked away from his hours on the job to get this done, and then was a passion project for him. He just said, let me do something fun on my own time, and I really appreciate that. It came out great, so for those of you who laugh at that every time, thank you, Matt.
So, going over today, I actually have a couple of things personally that I thought were really interesting through both of the sets, some weird things that we got to see.
I'm here for you.
But a couple of things that I think everybody would really be interested in. The first one is the kind of the sniper v sniper that we got to see. We got to see it twice. Once where Rock Monkey was killing it, and then once where Invocal was actually doing, I think, a little bit better than we saw out of Ricotta, but it didn't really make the difference for SK. So how did you feel about that Strix and Kinessa matchup?
Well, I mean, you saw both, right?
Yeah,
so,
I
mean, how do you compare the two?
I mean, the thing is that Rock Monkey had a better front line to lean off of. I think that's what SK didn't have. They were working on a very precarious kind of sustained battle. And what we saw was that the Kinessa also was, the Drogos is a big deal. And Kinessa was naturally predating, I guess I'm saying predating. Was predatory towards the Drogos. But the Strix, on the opposite side, when we saw it come into play in set 2 with SK and Payan, it was on the opposite side, you know, and Rock Monkey was able to have Random Noob on that Drogos on his team, and it was the Drogos versus the Strix, which didn't seem as big a problem for Rock, and he felt like he was, for Random, excuse me, it felt like he was the guy who was able to take advantage. So I think probably it was really just matchups for me, and like whose team supported each sniper a little bit better.
We've always sort of tried to compare and contrast.
That was nice.
Kinessa and Strix as well as we can, but it's very difficult because it's never in a vacuum, right? You always have, oh, well, the Strix took the fire spit, right? It makes it easier for Kinessa, or, you know, the Kinessa was getting pressured out by an Ashe, right? And she got flushed out in the line of sight of Strix. It's very difficult to say who's got the edge, and it often does come down to just that team comp.
Right.
I'm actually happy you mentioned the Drogos, and we actually got the clip just played, but that was one of the moments. It was 3-1. It honestly looks like that is not going to go Envy's way. That is Renegade's point to take until Random Noob just is like, never mind, guys. Like, we got this. He gets a triple kill. And the first kill, it's a punch. Not that impressive. Second kill, okay, you get a combustible shot onto the Makoa. But it was that third shot onto the Strix that I think really sealed the deal, as this is a top play, not only for you, but for your team to be able to take that back. What were you guys thinking? Because you were casting that.
I mean, I took a long time to say what I thought that I was really trying to say last round, which is basically that the Drogo Strix matchup is easier for Drogos than the Drogos Kinessa matchup. Yeah. And Random Noob took advantage of that. But that last shot was just icing on the cake. I mean, it was already made. It was already out of the oven. Honestly, you can shoot on Frog Isle in your matches at home and probably have a 95% success rate for hitting someone if you just shoot that little corner, because that's where everyone stands on that map.
Right. You see a lot of spamming going on, right? On a lot of different angles, on a lot of different maps. And that's what I think you were saying something. Somebody was saying something about just like how a player can calculate so much. This was you saying it, hit your Dragon Punch, turn around, hit that shot. No, you're going to get your cooldown back at the same time. I need to go back to holding the angle that I was focusing on before all of this even started.
Right.
And I think when you look at Random Noob,
he got
on that champion, he does that, right? He's been doing that on this character for so long.
Damn it.
You almost had.
I know. I used it at another time today. It wasn't appropriate. It was appropriate, but it just wasn't as good as that moment.
Well, so some of the other big matchups I think that were important for Renegades and Envy. I almost said SK and Splyce, but not exactly the case. And it was one that we kind of brought up during the pre-show, and it was Loki on Androxus, which he never got to play. But then versus Rock Monkey on Androxus, which was something that we kind of, I want to say, like, slept on, didn't expect it, and then eventually, I think it was during a LAN or during the last split, he pulled it out, and it just looked amazing.
Mm-hmm. I've had personal conversations with Rock. He's a good dude. He hangs out with me. He's slow in terms of his speech pattern. He's actually a really soft-spoken guy. Not like anything. He's very intellectual as well, but he has like a few champions. He was here when they were in LAN. He was kind of talking to me like, "Hey, went to the bathroom. What should I play?" And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, they're banning everything out. And like, it's like Zen or Andro, and Andro's not good. And that was kind of before the changes, but he just ended up going Zen. Unfortunately, they lost that game. But his pool is pretty limited, but Andro is in it. And the thing about Rock is that he plays his limited pool like a master.
What should I play, dude?
I know what he was talking about.
It's so funny.
It was a funny conversation.
Interesting Paladins bathroom talk.
Yeah,
what should I play?
Because when we get those bathroom breaks at LAN, we're going to the restroom. All the teams are taking their break, and sometimes those are heated sets, and you're peeing next to your opponent, and you're just like.
Well, he didn't ask me while we were peeing. I will clarify. He asked me before any peeing started, and after it ended.
But there is a lot there. I mean, Rock absolutely killed it on the Andro today. I don't know if we had the clip of him just beating Barrack to death from 100 to 0.
That was classic.
Strong right hand. The pimp hand was strong today for Rock. And no complaints from my end. I would have liked to see Loki on it. Envy didn't give him a chance, though. They first picked it, I believe, both games that they ran it. So Renegades didn't even have a chance. There was that little kind of like Vivian thing going on in there. She was banned one game, picked one game. She hasn't quite done it for me yet, personally.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts, feelings on Vivian, or is she just kind of there?
She's getting tossed around North America as far as picks. I think she's interesting. I don't have much to say about her right now. I think we'll see if she's for real. I
think that's something that is big on console, and I think that's partially why it started to translate into PC. I think some of the players saw how effective it could be against certain comps there, and we saw it in the PGS as well, but I feel like it's just not quite withheld its case as well. And I'm interested to see when people who, like the guys that are known as like the Ruckus players, when they start picking it up and maybe trying to change that. I'm looking for like Na'Vi trying to play it and make it look good. But other than that, we had SK and Splyce, which was a lot shorter, I think, than everyone really expected, maybe even people at home. But it all comes down to, I think, 2 or 3 kind of polarizing, I guess 4, polarizing performances. One was Pan, who during game number 1 didn't seem to really exist. Game number 2, it was a lot better, but it still kind of felt like there was a lot of pressure on Invocal to perform during the point fight, whereas Pan picked up during like push or defense.
I like calling it how I'm seeing it. Yeah. And sometimes it means that somebody's not looking good in front of me, and I'm just saying it over and over again. I don't think that should mean that this isn't great. that you're in the PPL. This isn't great that you're on a team and developing your career. You're playing video games for money. That is life incarnate for some of these kids, and they wish it could be something they do for the future. But as far as getting results, that's what competition is about, they haven't gotten any. And Payan hasn't shown up the way that SK need, and it's a tough ask because it's like, we need a fifth, but this fifth can't just be a fifth to slot in and be okay. He's got to carry us, and that's a really tough ask for him, I think.
Definitely is, especially early on in his career, as this is. I don't really remember him having a super illustrious career in the PGS. He may have bounced around there a little bit, but it's not a name that like jumped out to you, right? When you look at Rock and Rubu, those are guys that got their start there. They play a LAN with their PGS team.
They beat SK at LAN. Oh, God.
They were beating PPL teams at LAN, and
then
man,
he was the best player in the world his first split. I mean, that doesn't happen.
Yeah,
it's a horrible standard to try to keep.
It's a crazy story that Rock Monkey's got, and the Rubu. You know, the fact that they're having so much success. The top team in North America right now. They've had success. They've had an international LAN win at Vegas. I mean, it's really, you get to see the whole sort of flow from the bottom to the top for a lot of those guys on Envy.
I mean, you even got to see just the difference in players from SK, because Payan, we were talking about during the first game how it felt like he honestly wasn't even there. And Vocal's playing out of his mind. He's hitting headshots. He was at 10-2 at some point. And there's only so much one guy can do.
To me, I hope as a young gun who's still grinding out there, I think it's great that he's having good performances. I think that's all he takes away from this. I mean, obviously you work with the team, you try to figure out what's better, but losing the Splyce has probably hurt your season as far as your hopes for doing anything near getting a bye, so you know you're gonna have to play in that round. Just try to improve. Try to improve, man, and I think he's done a good job this season of showing up better than he did at all in the previous split, so I'm happy with him.
I mean, when in terms of new people coming in, you give them a split, you give them 2 splits. How long for a rookie?
Like Payan?
Right, exactly. Like how long before you have to start reconsidering?
The problem is these guys end up getting dumped, and it sucks because I don't think it's their fault. So I like to see teams stick, especially if you bring them in towards the end of a year, before a big tournament, after every other team is warmed up and already played LANs. I like to see him stick out until at least spring is over next year, right?
Yeah.
Before you make a swap on him. Unless you really just like a vibe, like we don't get along as people, right? You know, that's what I'd like to see.
I was actually thinking of trying to dive deep into a couple of other players that, again, are trying to make their name. Splyce, the entire roster at this point is trying to come through, but Shadow as well.
They needed a split.
Yeah, I mean, they just look incredibly good. Him and Ricotta looked incredible during all of that, but I think their gameplay honestly kind of spoke for it more than anything. But at this point, I guess the big question is it surprising to see SK lose to Splyce, or is this something that we kind of expected?
I expected them at least.
Honestly, it is surprising.
I did not expect a 3-0. I expected at least a game from them.
And you didn't see it. It felt like it was off. It felt like this is what Virtus Pro felt like last split for me. Virtus Pro have jumped beyond this. And SK have made changes, but they still are where they were.
Yeah.
With that being said, I thought Dethroner still did a good job managing tight situations. I just felt like their drafts put them in really bad spots to succeed.
Really?
And then in Stone Keep, I just thought that their decision to try to take the low ground when they had the Willow on the high ground and not try to kick her off of that, when that's where she excels, she gets twice as good.
Right, that was weird. I remember watching that.
And they did it every time. And that's what, to me, those are the things that makes me question SK, to where I love you, but I like knowing things, like knowing why things happen.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that happened. And that's what always trips me up with them.
Agreed. Yeah. You watch that type of stuff, and normally when you see a hard deviation from the mean, which is that fight for the keep and Stone Keep, it's that fight for that little high ground behind the waterfall and Serpent Beach, those sort of things, when they're not happening, I like to assume there's a plan. There's a reason why they're doing it. And when whatever said plan is falls on flat on its face, you got to say, was there a plan?
Yeah. Or was there an adjustment that we could have made, but we just did the plan again?
That was, I think, the biggest issue for me was seeing SK just kind of repeat what had failed 3 times in a row, essentially. And I guess with the comeback mechanic, it was technically successful, but there's only so much you can account to. Was it our strategy, or was it really the fact that we were capturing the point twice as fast? But overall, it was very big, I think, for Splyce to be able to get this win. Big for Envy to be able to close it out.
Huge day.
With a 3-0. And I'm honestly surprised. I'm excited to see what this means for the future of the PPL. But for now, we're going to have to kind of wrap it up for today. Tomorrow we'll be coming back. Fnatic has a doubleheader against Mouse and Virtus Pro. So I'm interested to see if those teams can at least make a dent. Fnatic not quite looking the same way. But until then, guys, we'll just see you next time for another day in the realm.